Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Talk About Podcast.
So welcome to the Center for Technological Innovation and Entrepreneurship podcast. Today, I'm going to be your host, and we have the pleasure to have with us today Nuno Cortesao from Zarta. And this is a special day today because we all talk about crypto, about blockchain. We had a lot of events in Lisbon in the last weeks, the Lisbon Blockchain Week, the Solana. And today is the opportunity to hear more about this world of crypto, this world about, blockchain and all that stuff. And it's a pleasure to have with us today Nuno Cortesao from Zarta. So welcome, Nuno.
Hi, Pierre. It's a pleasure to me to be here. It's a pleasure to talk a little bit about Zarta, a bit about ourselves, and to try to inspire students that are at college that can find a very nice path on these new technologies that are emerging. And so I'm very thankful for the invitation to the Center of Technology of Católica to do this podcast.
Excellent. So thanks, Nuno. So for all the listeners that we have around here, so for the students and other people that are tuning in, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? So who is Nuno? And tell us a little bit about what you did, where you're coming from, and why you ended up with Zarta. And also you're going to tell us a little bit what the name means. So the floor is yours, and tell us about you, Nuno, please.
So that's a very tricky question. Who am I? But I'll try to. Typically, people when talk about themselves, we can go into their different paths. I'm going to place this on a Zarta model and how I arrived on where we are now. So basically, I'm Nuno Cortesao. I'm from Lisbon and I'm a mechanical engineer. I studied on technical, and when I was leaving the college, I had no idea where I was going next. So I done some internships around the space. I went to some mechanical engineering fields, and then I realized that I had a very deep passion with IT. And so I went to consulting at the time because it was a very nice bridge. It was an opportunity to jump into this IT space and try to try all of these. And basically I ended up, at the time I thought I was going to be a developer, a coder, but when I arrived to consulting, they told me that I had a very nice background on technological stuff, that I had the capability to talk business also. So I ended up working as functional and strategy consultant, and I worked on this space for a few years. So I was like 2 years working on strategy for IT, never touched on code at the time. And then when I was expecting to do a path to be more a coder, I went to Barcelona, to UK, to work on machine learning for the banking industry. And I started exploring all the fields. And I realized that when we are so early on this stage of our lives, you can test different fields to see what fulfill us. And so as I was very curious, when I arrived again in Lisbon, there was an opportunity to start exploring crypto and blockchain. And this is like 2017 at the time. And so I realized, okay, let's try this. Let's see how it goes. Let's explore. I was getting into the space, trying to do some investments at the business, at the personal level. And then I realized that this was a very nice area to foster. And so I went there. I started working on the topic, building stuff at the corporate level. And so from there, I was the head of blockchain at Average. It was a Spanish consultant. Now it's called Entity Data because they rebrand themselves. And then I went to Accenture because Accenture wanted to create a blockchain space here in Lisbon. They had already lots of projects internationally. And I just went from all these corporate steps going on on a very organic path where I was growing on responsibility, growing on ideas. And then from Accenture, I realized that I was on a space that was lacking people to do startups and creating new business. It was an area full of space to grow and without people to do these moves. So I went to work part-time for Self-Focus. It was a company that belonged to Vodafone and to the Nova Base group that was working as an advisory. And with all of this, I created Zarta. So I had the time, the space to think a little bit outside of the box, and we created a financial concept that now is the baseline and the backbone of our company. So I'm the CEO of Zarta. It's a startup that have been pumping in the last 6 months, and we are exploring this space about binding and creating the finance tools for this crypto world that is that works on top of communities and that is very primitive at now. And so this was the path.
So thanks for the intro, and we're going to talk about Zarta perhaps a little bit later. Let's focus on Nuno now, and with your background in IT, you went through consultancy, you had a solid experience. You could have stayed there. So what's especially for the students that are listening, and there are most of them already, starting as consultants, what happened? Did you one day, you woke up and you decided, I had enough, I want to create my own stuff? What were the key event or the compelling event that made you actually mature the idea that you wanted to create Zarta?
I think that's a very nice question. I think that I was on a very good and solid path on consultancy, and I looked to the sky and I was thinking, okay, I've proving myself a long time. Every time that I'm doing all these career moves, everything is going well. And so I assumed that I started looking to the future, and do I want to have this no risk life forever? This is the story that I want to tell my children. I had always had the dream of creating a business or creating something that was very powerful on a story-based line that I could tell to people, because I love to talk to people. So it was, and I was like, okay, I need to build something new. And I'm on this space around blockchain where lots of things are happening. I start went to summits and to conference in the space. I was like, it was a marvelous world, and I was thinking, okay, I'm doing this very well at the corporate level, but why should I try it? Should I take the risk? And I realized that when the age starts to you realize that there is time for risking, and you can open a startup when you are 40. I met a guy that had 20 years of corporate experience and now went completely solo for building a startup. But it's way easier on this phase where you have already some best practice, some knowledge of consulting, some knowledge of corporate level, and you can empower those tools. But you are still you still have a very strong appetite for risk, because you know that if everything fails, you can take 1 or 2 years to recover, but it's okay. It's not going to damage your whole life just because you are trying. And so I start giving small steps, and I realized that it's more riskier to stop and to be on the no risk path than going to the risk path, because the risk path, it brings you very hard choices, but it gives you the concept of empowerment, and give you you find people that is on the same trajectory that you are, that are trying to do different stuff, that are trying to prove that they are trying to prove their passion on the topics, and you start meeting the best people there, and so it kind of goes on a snowball. And so that was one of the reasons, was let's try it before it's too late, before I get too many children, before I get too many responsibilities, that I have a full mortgage that I have to pay, and then I don't have space to risk. So it was a balance between the risk and time.
I do relate to that, because I have kids, I have house, and we have to pay for the mortgage. And I do also understand that at some point, when you have the knowledge, and I think this is something I took note here, you had the knowledge about crypto, you've been in this world for months, years, and you find an opportunity. You didn't jump actually into crypto without any knowledge. Okay, you had the knowledge, you were quite savvy about this field, and at some point you saw an opportunity, and also linked to the fact that you didn't have, or you don't have at this point, even if you're married, you don't have a commitment with kids, with houses, with mortgage, and etc. You decided to jump. Okay, so I think it's a mix of having the knowledge and also having a certain time in your life, the ability to risk, and these two things together means Zarta. So if you have in trying perhaps a little bit to discuss a little bit more on that, and this move that you made from the corporate to Zarta, we have students that are hearing this podcast, and what advice would you give them? So if they tell you, Nuno, you're very successful with Zarta, should we start right away the startup after we get graduated, or should we work in the corporate world first and try after? Or what would be perhaps advices that you would give to these guys?
I would go with, there is no correct path. We should run away from the confirmation bias. So every time that someone opens a startup, the good ones are going great. It seems that everything is easy, but it's not. It's good to have an idea that's it's hard, but it's a very funny and interesting path. And I've met everyone as their own time. I've met guys that now in the fintech space, the crypto space, that came from Germany, that they rented an house in Peniche, in Baleal, and they are surfing all day and building all night. So that's their own. And they are young, and they went straight to college to do that. That's something that people like me, at least, I can't do it right now because I don't have a mortgage, but I have a life with a specific set of boundaries. So what I feel is that everyone has their own pace, and it's important to feel comfortable when you take these risks, because there is a part on startup world where when you start an idea, everything is cool, and you jump around some concept, you build something or you write something, because building is not only coding, it's not only developing the product, but it's business planning, idea maturation, is feedback received from people that I've already tried, that are successful in other business, etc. But it's critical to understand that there is a place on the startup life where you decide, okay, this is the path now, and there is no turning back. And when you are joining with other co-founders, it's critical to have people with you and to onboard other people with you. It's critical to that everyone has the notion that in some parts you cannot be part-time delivery, that you have to be completely fully immersed. And so it's very important to understand what's the perfect timing for each one. I believe that I was very happy to have the possibility to have a corporate experience first. So it gave me the opportunity to see how multiple industries work, what are the pain points, what goes well, what goes wrong. It gives you the tooling system, so you understand how timesheet works, you understand all this kind of stuff that when you come from college, you have to learn by yourself. And I can tell you that the experience that I'm having, we are first-time founders. So there are lots of stuff that we are finding now that we didn't knew a few months ago. Like on raising, there are several ways of raising money, several ways of doing lots of things. And so the same applies for the business concept. So when you are on a corporate, you know how human resources work, you know how legal work, you know how all that complementary part you get to touch and to understand what's the best practice. And so when you are building a startup, that's very useful, and you make bridges way faster. It also gives you some credibility. So when you go to a good company, you learn a lot, you get some stamps on your curriculum, and that's also very good to open doors, to create network, and to foster your own experience. So, but there is no perfect time. It's appetite for risk. I think it's the critical part, and a dream. You have to have a very strong passion, because you will have people that will get super excited and say this is the best thing in your life, and others that will tell you this is the worst piece of idea that I heard in my life. And you have to have a very strong stomach, so that you can get all this feedback and then decide what's better for you and for the company and for the future and for the decision making.
One thing that you mentioned, and I think, I do share that as well. I share the idea that having a previous corporate experience helps you to understand how that works, but also helps you to lead with the frustration when you deal with larger corporation and you know how the decision process is, etc. Because when you're a small entity or startup, decision process is very fast, and you move on exactly very fast. But when you have to deal with external agencies or government bodies or funds, etc., it takes time.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think, if you don't have this experience of the corporate world, you may think this is too much time for me. But this is actually the way usually e-corporation works. And I think this is this is an asset when you have this previous experience, and after when you decide to jump into the startup world and create your own venture. So, yeah. Okay, so thanks for that. Now, everyone wants to hear about Zarta. So, can you tell us a little bit what is Zarta, and perhaps and also something I would like to share for the people that are not aware of that, and it's about NFTs, and NFTs is a concept, and it means non-fungible token. It's basically a way that you can have a unique identity on an asset that is digital. So you can, for example, have the first tweet of Jack Dorsey, you put that in the blockchain and you say, this is the first one and this is unique. It cannot be divided, or you can have an image of a cat or an icon of a cat or an avatar, and you put that in the blockchain and you say this one is unique. And so it helps you, and NFT is about that. It's about creating digital assets that at a certain point have a certain value. And this is what you're going to talk about. You're going to talk about Zarta, that is actually using these NFTs to help people get, bridge with their physical life and etc. So I don't want to spoil the explanation of Zarta, and please tell us a little bit what is Zarta and the implication with the NFTs. So
Zarta, it's a company that provides an experience where users that have this kind of digital assets as NFTs can request a loan using the asset as collateral. It's critical to understand a little bit what's a non-fungible token. As you were saying, non-fungible tokens are a type of digital assets that are pure digital, and that represent a change in the way we perceive the internet. Internet yesterday was about interaction of reading and writing. Now it's about possession. The Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies came with that concept that's at the sense of fungible money. It's not, maybe we cannot call it money, but currency. It's very something that is very, the semantics for this is very critical. But giving a good example on a non-fungible token is The same way that a Bitcoin is equal to a euro, it's not equal, but it represents an analogy for the real life. The same goes for digital assets, NFTs to a real asset. So if I have a car in the real world, in the digital world, I would have a non-fungible token that represents the car. And the concept of NFT goes from, as you were saying, from an image of a cat or a Twitter or a collectible, a card that is something that is very easy to perceive, and it's the first use cases that we are seeing to emerge, to things that become much more valuable in the future. So we can have invoices that represent a payment, and then they will have intrinsic value because they represent a payment in the future. So we can build solutions for that. We can have a non-fungible token that represents a digital twin. The same way that we have a paper today that says that my house belongs to me or a car belongs to me, I can go with a non-fungible token, a digital asset that represents that asset. Or we can go into more digital objects, like a ticket for going to see sporting. Nowadays, if you want to transact a ticket like that, people do it in the front of stadium with very bad security. You can lose your ticket, or when the person that buys that ticket goes to the stadium, the ticket may be voided. And so if we have all of that on non-fungible tokens, we can create an asset that is very easy to transact, and that represents, and that everyone can certify if the value is okay, if it was used, if it was not used, depending on the use case. And so we capture this concept of digital assets, and we thought, okay, now in the space, the tools are very primitive, so we can sell NFTs, we can buy NFTs, we can use NFTs for some the most advanced for some real life interaction, but we are lacking financial tools for it. So we created a concept the same way that someone goes to a bank to request a loan for an house and gives the house as a collateral on the mortgage. We do the same. So you go to the platform, you connect your wallet, and you can identify the digital assets that you have, and then you can request a loan using the asset as collateral. So this is Zarta. This is the experience that we are building, and we are different from the other players in the market because we are creating a solution that is real time, based on our experience on creating blockchain solutions. Me and we are 3 co-founders. 2 of us have very deep expertise on blockchain, and we are leveraging this fact to create a concept where users can go and have this real-time experience. So it's a very good user experience in reality.
Can I say that Zarta is basically the experience that is going to bridge the digital world, where you have your digital assets, to the physical world when you want actually to get these assets in the digital world to have some value in the physical world?
I wouldn't go precisely to that path, because in reality, that's something that we are fostering now, is to work only with digital assets that represent things that are virtual, because the barriers between having an house that is tokenized, that is a non-fungible token, it relies on complex concepts. We have the custody in real life, we have the custody of the asset itself. There is an oracle in the middle, so it goes to there is a very high level of major pain points that have to be tackled in that. So Zarta now is looking to, you have a digital asset, you request a digital coin loan, and we operate on this space, and we are building several use cases around this, but always related to digital objects. We want to go in the future, that's our part of our roadmap, to grow organically with the rest of the ecosystem. So when we start seeing that the digital assets represent digital real physical objects, and there is a very good level of matching between the digital twin and the real twin, we will go to that path in the future. That's something that we have in the roadmap to follow the organic growth of the ecosystem.
Okay. Excellent. So thanks for the explanation. I think it's clear on that. And tell me one thing: is the name Zarta is? Can you share with us what is the name from, and how you came up with the name?
So we came with Zarta. It was a play. In reality, I read the Memorial do Convento, the Portuguese book from Saramago, and at the time there is a guy there that is Baltazar Sete that was always looking for ether and the feeling of energy, not the ether, the cryptocurrency. But so a few years ago, I thought it was very funny that the guy was looking for ether, and then when I was creating the startup, I requested, like, we were looking for ether, we were building on top of cryptocurrencies, on digital assets, and I was like, oh, we are Baltazar, and I was basically we were all together doing some drawings on the walls of the concept, and we seen Baltazar, and someone said, that's a very good name for the startup, and I said, no, Baltazar is terrible. We are not going to make it, because there is for sure already 10 companies called Baltazar. So we played a little bit with the words. I was like scrambling in a paper, and it went to Zartabal, that it was a anagram. And so I think it was or Pedro or Diogo, I don't know, one of them said, like, oh no, it can be Zarta. And then we went to the domains page and we saw that it was free, and we have a name for our company now. It was the only thing that I was able to fully explain to my parents is we have a name for the company. So at that time they were like, okay, now you are on the right track. If you have a name, you have energy, and you can work on top of that. So
okay, so now we have Zarta, and we know the name, the origin of the name. Let's dig a little bit for the students here. The students at Católica, we have some classes, some curriculum that are based on lean entrepreneurship, and when you have an idea, you need to do the business model canvas, you need to do the customer value proposition, etc. You need to do customer discovery. And my feeling, and I would like to hear from you, is that the crypto world is moving so fast. I mean, what was out 1 week or 2 days ago is old tomorrow, okay? And it's going to be very old tomorrow. So are the tools that we share with the students still applicable for people working on blockchain, crypto, like the business model canvas, customer value proposition, etc.? Or you think these tools are obsolete?
I can tell you that that's a very nice question. I can tell you that they are not obsolete. And why? Because it gives you, as I was talking about, going to build a startup on top of corporate experience give you an edge. When you start doing business modeling or double diamond models for design or building concepts, you are you have an edge when you put strap on top of tools that exist. Because when we started, for example, on Zarta, we developed our frameworks, our own ideas, and then when you want to showcase to people, when you want feedback from people that don't understand the concepts, it's very good to have something that they are used to it. And it's even good it's very good for you to frame your head on those topics, because when you go to the lean canvas, you start thinking you go around competition, you go around go-to-market strategy, who are your partners, how you are going to deliver, who is going to be the key providers, and you start the same, and it has a full match with the crypto space. It's the same. Now we are having problems on the go-to-market. We are getting on track on that, but because we didn't went with an approach that was end-to-end on a business canvas model, and so we kind of were blindsided on that spot because we were not following the best practice, because we were building technology, building strategy, building business, but then okay, something that was critical was getting behind because we were not having the full scope. And so those kind of tools are very useful. Another thing that I can say that is critical is testing. Mm-hmm. So we are used to the concept of getting everything right, but now that I'm creating a startup, I'm realizing that the majority, we can have very good educated guests, and that's the cool part of being a founder, is to have a vision and to know, okay, I believe that this is going to be right, but then it's very critical to try to test with the market. For example, now we are building a backlog of hypotheses, because there are so many things that we want to try, that as we are building on a space that no one has any clue, we have to be the ones who have to find the truth. And so it's very critical to start testing, to start creating, engaging with people that are from the community. That's a very strong point here that I would like to say, that is, on top of all these tools of business modeling, etc., it's critical to reach people that are going to use your product and talk to them and say, oh, this is my idea and this is how I want to do it. And they are going to give you insights, because they will not copy. It's very hard to copy ideas. It's very hard to copy execution. And if you believe in yourself, in your team, and even if you don't believe in yourself, you have to, because if you don't, then entrepreneurship is not for you. If you need to know that you will find the paths, but not alone. It's not you that are going to change the world. It's the customers that are going to change the world with your help, and you will drink from their wisdom, but also apply a little bit of your vision, or else you get with a very strange product that feels everyone needs but doesn't fit any needs. So it's a balance. Everything on this is the balance. I think balance is also a very critical point here.
What you said is just something I do really appreciate. I mean, the thing about talking to the community, talking to people, getting feedback, and not being afraid of being copied, because execution is actually key. There are a lot. I had a call this morning with students, and one of the second point after explaining the idea was really about that. Meaning that they didn't want to tell a lot of things, they wanted to secure the idea, etc. And I always also shared the same point, is that you can have the wonderful idea, but this is key, the execution is key, okay? And don't be afraid to get feedback. Yeah. I haven't seen here within the scope of the students here at Católica that were able to develop an idea, not having shared that with the people, community, and getting feedback. The idea of, I have an idea, me, myself alone, I'm gonna have a patent, or I'm gonna protect the idea, and after I'm gonna develop, I think this is not the reality. It doesn't really exist, okay? And what you said is super important for the people that are hearing us. Yeah. So thanks for that, yeah.
Doesn't fit that model. It's very critical when you want. It's critical when you already know the path. So on the phase where you have an idea, it's critical to test with everyone, test with the correct people. So we tested our idea, for example, we went to getting feedback at different levels. We got feedback from corporate, but now we are basically blended inside of the DeFi community and people that use the product, and we are asking to them, and the insights that we get are much more valuable than the others that come from people that are only very smart and that can identify red flags. It's critical to test, and it's critical to no one is going to copy you. People are like too much their own ideas to copy. Exactly. They are going to try their ideas first, and maybe if you are very, very, very successful, they will, okay, now we should try to copy them. But then you have a very good advantage, because you have already asked everyone what's the opinion, so you have all the paths that you know that will not result. You don't have to lose time on them, so that's good.
Yeah. Thanks for this word of wisdom. This is super important for the listeners here to listen about that, and to hear you tell them about that. One thing I would like to move on one other question now is when did you create Zarta? When did you start?
So we started Zarta, I believe it was in the end of March this year. So we had like 2 months of internal conceptualization. We were 6 people, I believe, because I was sharing the idea with a few friends, getting some insights going on there. Then we went to the bet competition that was powered by Catholic at the time. That was the first time that we reached the market with the idea. And the idea that we have today, it's very different from the idea that we had that was showcased, because we had received lots of feedback and we kind of shut down lots of things that were potential bad paths, because we were going to waste lots of money on marketing or money on customer acquisition that wouldn't make sense on the future. So it was very nice it was the first time that I realized, okay, now we are going from theory into practice. So now we are like receiving real feedback, starting to build on top of something, and it was a very good part. So we started like 2 months previous to go public and to start showcasing with people.
So for all the people that are listening to us, this podcast is being recorded in November. So Zarta started in March and we are in November. So this is what I mean by the speed of crypto blockchain, of how people are moving fast and doing things. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And tell me one thing also, in this time frame from March to now, is you attended some events, like you mentioned the bet, bring entrepreneurs together from Católica, but you went also to big events like the Web Summit, etc. Can you tell people here, or can you tell the students that have ideas, what are the benefits of getting into these events and exposing your idea? Is that only for validation, or also meeting potential investors, etc.? Can you tell us what are the added value of doing that?
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. So in reality, we have to identify the events and identify what's the output that we want to take from each. It's a very good practice to know previous to event. Cool to go to events because you meet people. So for start, that's good. But then it's very important to pinpoint what is going to be the event of this. Because, for example, we went to 4 different events in the last 2 months, and in each one of them, we had completely different targets. We went to the Ethereum and ListCon that happened so Lisbon was the blockchain month, was last month, it was October. So the majority of events of cryptocurrencies in blockchain were here. And so we went to the Ethereum one to identify people that were working with the same products that we had, so that we could start blending with that communities. So we started getting people into the Twitters, getting people into the Discords, talking with them, getting the idea and say, this is what we are building. They would give feedback. So for us, it was awesome. Then we went to an hackathon so that we could start having touch points with developers and people that are not developers but work on hackathons, on business idea, on the product framing, and so that we could see how what the market is building, and see if that could fit with us. Then we went to the Web Summit with a complete different goal. We went to the Web Summit to test the awareness of outsiders into the space and to start fundraising, because now we are on a point where we want to scale, because we have already the prototypes and the product to go to the market. And so we went to fundraising, and it was fantastic in a way that we get exposure to different kinds of investors, people that are more traditional, people that are less traditional. But now we have an opportunity of pool of fundraising that we can pick, and it's better because we foster different contacts for different phases. We met investors that said to us like, we are the ones that you should take now, and we met investors that said, don't go with us now because we just invest in companies that have revenue of a very big amount. So it's good to start building warm introductions. And for example, I can tell you that every time that we are trying to reach international players to do a partnership or something like that, if we go by a online conversation sometimes, or we don't get answer, or we have to really pull the strings to get it. But if you are able to go to events where the type of people that you want are there, you can go and talk to them directly and says, I have something to show you, or give me feedback, and that's very. I learned an expression on Web Summit that was given by an investor that I was having a master class there, that was saying, if you want money from people, go and ask for advice. If you want advice, go and ask for money, because if you go for money, people will will say to you, no, I'm not going to invest because of this and this. So you get your advice, and you get, okay, now my product is falling short here and here. If you go to them with advice, they will look to you like, no, these guys are on the path. No, now I want to invest in them. So it's a very funny experience. And last, we went to the Solana event just because it's a new technology of blockchain that we were not so aware. So we went there not to get feedback, but to get insights, to see, okay, this new technology, how could we foster? This makes sense to us. It's good to identify why you should go. And then the opportunities, if you make your homework, your opportunities are better. But
okay.
And another thing that just one more part is, events are like a roulette. You can get really lucky sometimes. Some days you just meet every Joe and people that are very interesting and critical to you to talk and to be friends. But sometimes you just, by chance, you run into people that are extraordinary, or that open a door that you had no idea that you could open. And for example, that happened to us in the ListCon, in the Ethereum one, and at the Web Summit. We met completely randomness. Even with the homework it was good, but sometimes luck is also it fosters the people that are there. So it's good. You improve your chances of getting lucky strikes.
Yeah, but you have to be there. If you don't go there, you're not going to be lucky. So,
yeah.
And one thing now I would like perhaps to move on and perhaps to conclude is the way I see Zarta is a team of three very knowledgeable people with corporate experience that are socializing the ideas as much as possible to get feedback, and getting as much as possible with the community, and getting also on board with events that are relevant. What I didn't say here is that I'm not talking about the way you do the technology, and I'm sure you're very good because you have the background, etc. But for me, one of the key of success, and one of the things also that perhaps the students that hear us should take note, is that you're investing quite a lot of time validating, getting out, and being in events. You could decide, and perhaps this is not the philosophy I share, but you could decide it doesn't make sense. Let's make the perfect prototype and go out. What you're doing is you getting people around and you testing and you're iterating. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. But we also have some decisions on that field. Sometimes, like after all this iteration, now we are on a phase that it's kind of a cycle. Now we are on a phase where, okay, now the next 2 months we want to deliver our proof of concept. We have to kill we have already the feedback. Now we integrate, now we develop, now we create, now we go to the market, and then we repeat the cycle. Because if you start going always on that, you have to have this balance of deploying, creating, and listening. So it's you should always be doing a little bit of everything. So every time that you meet someone on the end of this call, I'm going to show you probably Pierre the last iterations that we have, so that we can get the feedbacks. But it's critical to sometimes also close some time to transform the feedback that you have into products, so that you can iterate to the next level.
Yeah, makes sense. And tell me one thing. So now, for the people hearing us, in the world in general, and all these changes that are happening in our life with blockchain, crypto, etc. And looking also at the students in management here that are interested about this world, but perhaps are not technical enough to be able to either code or understand in depth the technology. Which advice would you give to business people or business students about this new moving stuff that can look so messy at some point, but can look also so attractive on the other side, because you hear a lot of stuff. So what would be your word of advice for these people, you being the person with the co-founders that created Zartec?
I would go that for a business student, and there is space for everyone. So there is space for people that know about finance. That's blockchain and crypto has that magic that connects. There is a connection between the financial part, the economics, and the technology. So I can tell you that every time that we are building something new on decentralized finance, sometimes we lack the view of a finance person that has deep expertise on that. So there is a very nice space for business people to enter this space at business level, because the majority of people that build new stuff sometimes have no clue how to make money or how to build a business model on top of a very innovative technology. So the best way to start going and to look to this space and to be entrepreneur on this is, first, go to Google and start learning a little bit about blockchain, about the concept. And you don't have to go very deep. But the problem is that this is a space that also brings lots of money. So people, when they start studying, instead of going into the underlying logics and to see, I could build a product here, or I could do this, they go to, what should I buy, what should I sell? And that kind of it blocks the eyes of people because they are looking into the fast profit. But that's a good mindset. It's okay. I've done it too. So there is space to everything. But I would start with exploring decentralized finance. And not in a way of investing, but just go a little bit to the documentation and read, why can someone give 20% interest on a stable coin? There is logic on that. There is full documents on Medium that people can start learning. And the thing is that knowledge goes on compound. So every time that you learn how a stacking works, or how a financial NFT work, then you start correlating with the concepts that you already know, and then you start seeing problems on concepts. And then I can tell you that in our startup, as we are on this emergent technology, every time that we take a rock, we find like 10 startups. This is and this is a problem. It's a problem for us to get the focus right and to ensure that we are going on the right path. But there is so much space here that, from bringing the traditional finance into this finance, from creating new ways of doing finance, because like in Portugal, we are a little behind of the other countries. Like in the US, now we are talking here about acquiring cryptocurrency. In USA, they are talking about acquiring NFTs, and now they are already in the next level talking about DAOs. DAO is Decentralized Autonomous Organization, DAO. And so they are building companies now where everyone has a seat, and that person is a digital person that holds a key for the actions of the company on a flat structure that goes on voting like a democracy on decisions. And so this is the kind of things that are happening. And if we don't open your eyes, and if we don't read just a little bit, we are lacking behind. And then we are on a land of opportunities here, and lots of blockchain people are coming to Lisbon. So we are on a very Lisbon in Portugal. So I met people that was going to Peniche to surf. I met people that are fully reallocating in Porto, in Lisboa, and so we are on this space where we have all these people with quality and talent here, and we should we have to give them an answer, to work with them and to place Portugal in the map, working on this space.
Okay, so thank you very, very much. I mean, it was a fantastic conversation about the term I'm going to use is opening eyes. You know, eyes opening is there's a reality out there that is coming and is going to change the world. I mean, I believe that some of it will remain, some of it will change, but this is changing. If we don't look at that now, we're going to be left behind and we will not understand what's happening. So for all the students that are thinking about the venture, and I think this is a fantastic and super interesting world to look at. And I'm sure we're going to hear about Zarta pretty soon, about your journey and more information about what you guys are doing. And congratulations to all of you three. Congratulations to you. And to remember all the people that are listening, Zarta was creating in March. A lot of things happened in the last month. And this is what crypto is. This is about this fast-moving, reality, and adapting and putting a product and talking to people and delivering. Okay, so thank you very much for sharing your experience and your enthusiasm with us. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you on my side, and if anyone has a question, just drop me a note on nuno@zarta.com. It's easy, and I can send documentation for people to read, but good documentation for business people, not very technological one. And thanks for the invitation. It was a pleasure to talk a little bit here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nuno.
Talk About Podcast.